Hey everybody, welcome back to It's My Health. I am so excited to have my friend Bailey here with me again. She did a gut health episode, well, 2 episodes with us. Early this year, whenever it was a while ago. But I'm really glad to have her back. Bailey is a health coach and has some official license that she can remind me what it is. She's a mom of 2 little guys and a sister. And that is why I've asked her to come on the podcast today. And we're going to talk about some things that you can do to help prevent your chances of getting cancer. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we're going to talk about some things that you can do to just help yourself not be as likely to get cancer in general. And we are dedicating this episode to her sister, who I will let her tell you all about. So Bailey, thanks for being here and share what you got.
Hi guys. Thank you, Kristen. I am so honored to be on here. And when you asked me to talk about this, it was a big moment for me because I feel like it's something that was a part of my past that was painful, obviously, that we went through. And I'll kind of get into the story of that, but just to be open and sharing it with everyone, just honored to share the story. And I hope that you guys take some little tidbits from this and empower yourself with your health and everything too. So like Kristen said, I am a functional nutrition coach. I have 2 little guys. They are 6 and 4. So life is a little crazy these days. But yeah, my passion is helping others find their path to just feeling empowered in their health and just to feel their best physically and mentally, their body as a whole. So I will dive right into our story, my family story. And this is a huge part of why I started on my personal health journey. I grew up here in Michigan. I'm from Michigan. I'm still here. I grew up with my parents, my sister and 2 brothers. I was the oldest. We had a big family of 4 kids. And we're a pretty typical family. We thought we were pretty healthy. Like, why wouldn't you be? Nothing too crazy ever happened. I don't think anyone even had a hospitalization. I think my sister broke her collarbone once. That was the biggest thing in our life growing up. That was, a big deal. But, we didn't drink pop or soda, whatever area you're from. We cooked a lot of food at home, took our vitamins, just a typical Midwest family. But about 10 years ago, that changed for us. My sister, her name is Heather. So Heather Joy, she got married in the fall of 2011. She was 22 and she moved to Virginia. Her husband was in the military, so they were down there. So that was kind of hard for us because we've always been a close family, always stuck together. So for it to be different states, that was difficult. But, thank goodness for technology, to stay in touch. So they were starting their life down there together. And she came home for Christmas and she had a cough, which we didn't think anything of. It's cold and flu season. People have coughs, sniffles, everything. And why would you think anything? She's a healthy 22-year-old girl. No one would ever think anything. So, and I remember so she went back home and then it was sometime in January. I don't remember the exact day, but I remember when we got that call, how when something major or traumatic happens in your life, you remember exactly where you were, what you were doing, like it's those details stick. So my mom and we actually had tickets to see the Wizard of Oz on stage. We were at the performance and we got a call that they were going into the hospital, that she just wasn't getting better still. So we're like, well, that's weird, still didn't think anything, just like she needed some help. So at first they assumed it was bronchitis or pneumonia. But then the tests started getting bigger and more extensive. And as the diagnosis did start to look like it was some sort of cancer, they thought it might be Hodgkin's lymphoma, because that's typically something in that age range, which, immediately when words like cancer are thrown around, you're diving into research and Google and internet and looking at that. Hodgkin's lymphoma has a pretty high survival rate. So we're thinking like positive, the best thoughts we can. The final culture finally came back and it was actually lung cancer. And at this time, I was a single girl. I didn't have kids yet. I was working in a radiology office. And so I knew a little bit about people that had cancer because they'd come in and get their scans and things where I worked. And I knew that lung cancer was not a good one. And now any kind of cancer diagnosis is never good, but certain types have lower survival rates, and some of them are just the last thing you want to hear. So that was something immediately, and I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but just from my experience, I knew this wasn't a good diagnosis. And of course, the doctors, they were all baffled. How does a 22-year-old girl all of a sudden get lung cancer? Not a smoker, no explanation. I mean, that's what people first think. Was she a smoker? It's like, no, she, never smoked a cigarette in her life. So the day that diagnosis dropped, it just like our whole world, our outlook, you're just going along living your life, and that's the last thing you expect to hear. I mean, we know in our world that we hear people getting cancer, different things like that, but when it happens to your family or you, it's so shocking. Like, you just don't expect, why would that ever happen to us? So like I said, we started researching constantly, just trying to find an answer and the best treatments, because there's so many decisions you have to make, in what direction, and what doctor's second opinions. There's so many things, and we just felt lost. Like we didn't know where to find the answer, and you're just feel like you're wasting time and you're losing hopes. She did go on and got the conventional treatments, and about 6 months after her diagnosis, we got a call that she actually had suffered a stroke. So I don't remember if this was during everything or after it, but a doctor actually had told me that the cancer patients, they don't usually die from the actual cancer. It's usually from a side effect of the cancer or the treatments. So this was what was happening here. So that was another call that just took the wind out of you for sure. So we went down to Virginia, which was really hard when this was going on, being in different states. That was the hardest part for sure. So she couldn't talk after the stroke, but she could understand and respond to us and everything. So that was a little ray of hope for us. And they were doing everything they could. We were at one of the biggest military hospitals in the country. But unfortunately, we spent the last 4 weeks of her life in that hospital there in Maryland. And I remember the last week her kidney and liver started shutting down, and that's when they knew, like, that's kind of when our hope gave up. Like, we always thought, well, they're going to do this to get past this, or they're going to do physical therapy and she'll get back from the stroke, but that just wasn't our story. So I think about it all the time, how it would be like if she were here, especially now that I have kids. Like, would our kids be playing together? So just definitely some bittersweet memories. And that's our story, like I said. So thank you for bearing with me, because that was really hard to tell. And I don't think I've ever told it all just like that, especially to a lot of people on a podcast. So thank you all for listening. And just to go into that further, because I think things happen for a reason. So I don't think this is a story that I'm just supposed to sit on and never talk about. I think it's definitely something that more people need to hear. And some of you may have stories like this in your life, where someone's been affected by this, or you've gone through things like this. So when someone gets a cancer diagnosis, we feel like it's something that just happened to that person, or it's something in their genetics that was passed down to them. It was just like in the cards, like there's no rhyme or reason, just some bad things happen to good people sometimes, little cliches like that. But I don't believe that's 100% true. I know that God has our days numbered, and that is for sure. But I also believe that He has given us knowledge, and our body is a temple. So we should be taking care of it in all ways, including our health. So the American Cancer Society, actually right on their website, says that 5 to 10% of cancers are genetic. 5 to 10. So let's do some math. That means that 90 to 95% of cancers are caused by what's in our environment. Therefore, they're preventable, right? Because if we can change our environment, can we prevent this from happening? So why aren't we? Why is no one talking about this? Let's start talking about it. Because I mean, part of this is this happened to us. I don't want this to ever happen to anyone again. Like if I could stop every cancer in the world from happening, I would. So that's why just getting the word out. If there's this many are preventable, let's make some changes and do something. So what is our environment? Well, first, let me give you the statistic how things have changed in our environment. Back in 1970, so what is the year? 50 years ago. That sounds crazy. I'm getting older. I wasn't around in the 70s. I'm not that old. But so 1 in 70 people got cancer in their lifetime in the 70s. 2022, 1 in 2 men will get cancer in their lifetime and 1 in 3 women. That is nuts. Like, what has changed that drastically in that amount of time? It's not just something that like, oh yeah, it seems like it. This is like huge. So let's talk about a few things that we can do in our everyday life to reduce our risk of getting cancer, taking care of our bodies as a whole. And a lot of these things are going to help you in so many other health areas as well, and just help you feel good. So we always want to feel good. So first one, this is always a tough one, and it always helps with everything, cut back on sugar. So why is this important specifically to cancer? So let's talk about this. Cancer feeds on sugar. And I remember way back when I worked at the radiology facility, they performed PET scans. Has anyone, you guys, a PET scan is basically a test that's done for cancer patients to determine how far their cancer has spread. So a patient is injected with a radioactive sugar, which the radioactive sugar goes to the cancer, lights up on the scan so they can see where the cancer is, how far it's spread, in different places. So in my mind, I thought, well, the sugar that we eat is doing the same thing, right? It goes directly to the cancer, and that's what cancer feeds on. So this is a passion of mine too, because in cancer treatment and our journey, no one ever mentioned that. Not one doctor mentioned, oh, be careful what you're eating right now. You need to switch to this kind of diet. It just wasn't talked about. And I don't think it's anything against our medical system. They're just not trained in medical school to learn about the value of food and nutrition upon our health. So that is something in our country and our medical system, I think, that needs addressed more, because there is power in food. I mean, I know people that have reversed thyroid disease from changing their diet, blood pressure, diabetes. There's so many different diseases out there that simple changes in our nutrition can make a huge impact. So when we were at the hospital, and even back then I didn't know as much, but when they offered a protein drink, because they wanted her to keep getting protein and things, the first ingredient on the drink was high fructose corn syrup, the first ingredient. And this is health food that they're giving to people in the hospitals. So that just baffles my mind. So that is something I would love to get more on board, is getting more nutrition in the hospitals. And sugar is more addictive than cocaine. So if you're trying to work on yourself and giving up sugar, give yourself some grace, because it's literally your body is addicted to it. So small steps. Don't try to go cold turkey and cut it out. You probably go crazy, but make sure. And this is super important. Do not switch to artificial sweeteners. All the zero sugar drinks and all that stuff, that is full of artificial sweeteners that are way worse than regular sugar. So those are going to even do more damaging things to your body. So that's the first one, cut out sugar. Next is address inflammation. So inflammation is the common thread connecting most diseases. Inflammation in our body is where disease comes from, and that's including cancer. So how do you reduce inflammation in your body? Because it's kind of like a vague term. I have inflammation. How do I get rid of it? Or do I have inflammation? I don't know. So
I think
first,
it's pretty safe to say that most of us do at some level, whether we realize it or not.
Agree. Yes. And usually you can tell by the way you feel, or I know most of us are not eating like salads 24/7. So we're getting some inflammation from our diet, all different things. So one thing you can do to cut out those inflammatory foods that are causing some of the inflammation, processed foods. So many of us are eating processed foods constantly. Some people, that's all they live on is something out of a box or a frozen package or something. Sugars, unhealthy fats like canola and vegetable oils. There's not only people are cooking with them, but they're in so many products that you buy that are in packaged. You'll see those inflammatory oils that are wreaking havoc on our health for sure.
And those then linger in the body for up to like 4 years, which is just freaky to me.
That is just, it's just horrible. It's disgusting. Like, it cannot be good. So those things you want to cut out. Now let's talk about something positive. Just add in more anti-inflammatory foods, which there's some delicious things like fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, flax seeds, your omega-3s, your wild caught fish. Turmeric is a great thing. I have a wonderful turmeric drink that I love that tastes delicious. Like, there's so many antioxidant rich foods. So that can be a number of delicious things. It doesn't have to be horrible. And I find when I'm trying to change my health, it's not a diet. I'm more focused on just incorporating more good stuff. And then I don't have time to eat the bad stuff, or I'm not hungry for the bad stuff because I'm having all this good stuff. So focus on what you can have more than what you can't have is my secret to eating healthier. And then moving your body is great for inflammation. We live in a world of people sitting. A lot of people, they go to work and they sit at a desk all day. They come home and they sit down on the couch and then they go to bed. So we just need to get some little bit of movement in our life. So just take a few minutes, go for a walk, do some yoga, lift some weights. Just a little bit goes a long way. I used to feel like you had to like work out for like an hour every day, but you just do like 15 minutes, get some movement in there. And then on to the next one, gut health. I know I talk about this all the time. If you see my Instagram, I'm kind of like the gut health girl sometimes, but, and go back and listen to that podcast we did back, I think it was in the spring that you were referring to earlier. That was excellent. It dives into gut health, more about that topic and why it's important for your overall health.
But I'm liking that gut health girl thing as like a handle. I'm liking that.
Hashtag gut health girl. But cancer often originates in our gut. And I'm not just talking about colon cancer. There are current studies right now that are about your gut microbiome and how it affects your overall health. So your microbiome is like all your gut flora. So all your little guys in your gut, there's good bacteria in there that are doing good work. So you want to make sure they're balancing out the bad guys, right? So these studies are studying the gut microbiome and the effects on breast cancer and prostate cancer, which, you guys, guess what? Those two cancers are hormonal. So your gut health is affecting your hormones, which can in turn affect cancer, because breast cancer is a very, most of them are estrogen dominant. That's what that is. It's a hormone problem. So see how our body is all connected. It is so fascinating once you learn that it's all affecting each other, and we can make that a good thing. So avoiding inflammatory foods, like we said, helps your gut health a lot. But also start adding in the good stuff, eating good probiotic rich foods. Take a probiotic, we take a little capsule at night that helps give us a little extra even. Take your digestive enzymes. When you're eating prebiotic rich foods, like your fruits and vegetables, that's giving those probiotics lots of food. They love that stuff. So it's helping them. Now,
and from a mom standpoint, like, build your kids up now. Like, don't wait to have to rebuild like a lot of us are doing in our 20s and 30s. Like, build them up now. They won't have to go back and undo all the things that we're undoing.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because as a mom of littles, you want, maybe things that happened to you or that you went through in your health journey, you don't want that for your kids. You want them to have better. You don't want them to have these health challenges. So exactly, getting their little guts built up and giving them their little probiotics and learning to cut out the sugar. I meant to talk about that in the sugar a little bit with the kids. Like, our society is so programmed to give kids so much sugar. It's insane the amount of sugar kids get these days. It's in their everything. It's in cereals, it's in the bars, it's in It's in ketchup, for crying aloud. It's in everything. So
It's in their vitamins.
yes, there are so many vitamins out there that have high sugar or artificial sweeteners and food dyes. Like, it's crazy what's marketed as health food. And these kids are just normal, and they get addicted to that just like we do with the sugar thing. So it is maybe hard to kind of wean them off that, but just get them back to the real foods.
And teaching them why, like when they're in that age range of being able to understand, teaching them why you're making those changes is so important, because when they start to understand that the reason behind, mommy's not just taking this away because mommy's trying to be mean. But when you explain to them, this is how the body works and this is what this food does to you, and then they begin to see and feel those changes, it will make a difference. There's a little girl that my mom teaches, and my mom has been teaching her these things, and her dad has been making the changes at home, and it's night and day difference. And she will come to things at church or whatever, and she will go to the workers and say, can I trade whatever this is that they gave her out, for something that at least doesn't have that much sugar, or, she finds the best thing she can that's available right then. But these kids get it. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
But you were talking about, we have to have the knowledge to know these things. The Bible says people die for lack of knowledge. Like, we have to teach this to the next generation. They need to know.
Yes. Like you said, they are smart. They know. My son, he will come up to me because of the things I've been trying to teach him, and he'll have some type of food, and he'll say, Mom, does this have vitamins and minerals? Like, he wants to know that it's good for him. And I'm like, so proud of that. Like, he knows that he wants good stuff in his body. Now, he still does like sweet things too sometimes, but at least he understands why. It's not just like you said, Mom is taking this away from you. So yeah, that was excellent. I'm so glad you brought that up about the kids, especially from the aspect of being a mom.
It's a lot of pressure. There's so many decisions that we make for them now that are going to make lifetime, consequences for them. And if we can guide them in these decisions now, and they don't have to face a diagnosis like cancer down the road, it's entirely worth every fit they throw. Like, go for it.
So true. It may seem hard in those moments, but once you get past that, and it's going to be worth it. Like you said, totally worth it. And they'll thank us in the future, because I thank my mom for some things that she had us do when we were younger that I thought was silly, but now I'm like, thank you. Like, and organic and non-GMO foods is the next topic that I had down for ways we can improve. And I know a lot of people immediately hear organic and they think, oh, it's more expensive, but there are so many options now. Even 10 years ago, when we were first going through this, it was hard to find organic food items, produce, and other items. It was harder. It was not as easily available. And depending where you are, they have like boxes you can ship to your house even. Like, there's so many more options. And I'm so glad the world is heading that direction, because I feel like more people realize this and they want safer options and safer food for their families. Now, it's known that the pesticides and herbicides used on our crops and on our produce, they're known carcinogens. Like, it's crazy. And washing them is great, but it doesn't just like wash off. Like, it's not just on the outside. That plant grew with that soaked into that fruit, and it's like in the plant. And especially with GMOs, it's, they put it right in the seed. So it's literally in the plant. And if you're like, I can't buy all organic, start with the Dirty Dozen. So look this up when we're done. Google Dirty Dozen list 2022, and it'll show you the list for this year. And basically, this is a list of produce items that are the most heavily sprayed with pesticides. So those are the ones that, if they're on that list, you should buy those organic. So just stick with those, at least get those organic, because it doesn't, just making a few decisions is a big step. You're one step closer, and you cut out how many toxins along your way. Like, you're helping your body with one last thing it has to handle. And then also they have the Clean 15 list, and that's a great one to check too for items that aren't typically sprayed. So if a certain fruit is on there, you can maybe buy the conventional because it's not typically sprayed. So that just gives you a little more peace of mind about what you're buying at the grocery store.
But still, please clean your produce. Clean it anyway.
Yeah, still wash it.
People touch it, bugs and slugs, and yeah, just wash it.
It's amazing. Like when I just washed a thing of strawberries, and it's so gross when you look at the water after it's done. It's like, oh, glad I didn't eat that. And GMOs. So you may have started seeing bioengineered ingredients on your food boxes. This is a new labeling law, which I'm really thankful for this labeling law, because it's requiring manufacturers to make consumers aware that an item has a GMO ingredient, which is genetically modified organisms. So this seed is literally genetically modified to repel insects and fungus and different things that would affect the crop. So GMOs, they are very experimental. They are very new in the recent culture. And they're just beginning to show a lot of health problems for America. Things like their lining of your gut health has been a huge increase. Autoimmune diseases are on the rise. Like a lot of these things are pointing that way. So it's just something that I've chose to avoid. Anything that is GMO, we don't like